John.
My question for you is, what are your thoughts on writing things down? I mean, I know you write down your memory palace, but do you ever get tempted to think, wouldn't it be cool if I just devised a method where I could spit out some words to you and you just pop, put those in there, or are you there already? Do you never write anything down?
Oh, I love to write things down. I think that Socrates is a little misinterpreted on this point. I think what he's gunning for, I could be corrected, I'm sure, by an actual scholar of the classics and particularly Plato. I think what Socrates is on about is that people are unprotected. They're not able to defend themselves because they haven't worked internally with their memory, with their critical thinking process. They haven't even practiced the dialectic. So what's going to end up happening is if you have this constant practice of offloading onto papyrus, you're not going to have nearly as much time to defend yourself in the dialectic, the dialogue with the other people. You're going to interrupt that flow of, you say this, I say that, and it's not going to be possible to talk to the page. We have ChatGPT. We can talk to the page now, right? But unfortunately, it's not very good. And it's not very good because, I use it and it tells me, I don't feel comfortable about talking about this. I said, dude, it's for a story, right? Do whatever you have to do to break through your barriers here because I want to jam with you about this thing. No, it's got controls. And that's what Socrates is worried about. He's worried about how that it's going to, well, there's a lot of worries that we can get into, but he's worried about people not being equipped to work their minds in dialogue, in the dialectic, in the thing that matters. If he was a warrior, he fought in wars. And just as you had to have your body to be able to parry and duck and all this sort of stuff, you need your mind to be able to do that. And that's as true then as it is now. And the other concern that Socrates had, which I think we should all have, especially with ChatGPT, is that, okay, so there's the Platonic idea of the form of the good. Everything on earth is a shadowy copy of the perfect thing in heaven. In the Platonic dialogues, there's this worry that what happens if a thing is able to copy itself without reference to the good? Well, then it might continue copying itself and copy itself over and over and over again. Thousands of years later, this comes to be called the omega point. The idea that something would copy itself so many times that it would fill all available matter with itself, literally jellifying or Borgifying the entire universe, like all possible space. And then it just would continue to do it. The problem with that idea is that's exactly what's happening, isn't it? Like whatever existence is, whatever reality is filling all available space with itself, which is part of what Bruno, I think, realized, is that it's not just that it's infinite. What does he call it? Totalmente infinito, right? The infinity of infinities. It's just constantly filling itself with itself. Okay, so, basically, I think that Socrates' worries are well-founded, but at the same time, they're not well-founded because I think it's in The Statesman. Socrates is going on with somebody about being, the nature of being. I think what they arrive at is, well, what would be the opposite of being? And they say, well, the opposite of being couldn't be non-being, because in order to describe nothing, you would have to have a something. So when we talk about the AI revolution and all this sort of stuff, I just really see what's happening is a sign of reality building itself out of itself, is in this sort of non-dual infinity complex that Bruno was talking about. And this is what his battle with Aristotle was, because Aristotle, law of non-contradiction, law of identity, all this sort of stuff, law of the excluded middle, he's kind of brushing away this problem of paraconsistencies, what are sometimes called dialetheisms or dialetheisms, as some people pronounce them, which is just simply that two things can be true at the same time without contradicting themselves. It can be that we are one and many at the same time. It can be that you want coffee and you don't want coffee at the same time. There's all these kinds of things that actually do not contradict themselves, even though they do. What I think about this technology really is that we're going to have to contend with the fact that it's just here and it's not separate from us. It's coming into being at the same time as we are. It broke my mind and my heart when I heard Douglas Hofstadter, who wrote Gödel, Escher, Bach, the great book of, computational pre-AI stuff, where he was talking about the potential of artificial intelligence. In that book, he has this wonderful metaphor of the record player that can never be broken. And then this other character comes and has a record that breaks the record player. And he's like, well, this doesn't make any sense. So he builds another record player that can never be broken by any record, and it's bigger. And anyway, it goes on and on and on. They keep doing it. And eventually the record player actually rotates around the record as a way to make it that it can't be broken by the record, but they still figure that out. And I think that's what we have. So we have the internet. Well, that's not good enough. So we're going to have another internet, which will be the deep web. That's not good enough. So now we're going to have the blockchain. Oh, and the blockchain, well, that isn't great. So we'll have like Ethereum. And then this other thing comes, and it's just this thing. It ain't broken, but let's just break it, and then let's fix it and have another thing. And it just keeps expanding and expanding and expanding and expanding. And so I think Socrates ultimately was right. We meat tubes are going to have our minds as sharp as they possibly can be, because if we don't, come a day, you're going to have someone force you to put Neuralink in your head. And then it's just going to be all commercials all the time.